cleaned the Orange ALPS switches in part 1, but as I was unsure of the best way to go ahead regarding lube, I decided to leave it until I could test them when they were soldered into the PCB. I've put them all back together now, and it's time to break out the soldering iron. I've got a pretty big backlog of builds, and there's quite a bit of content here now, so if you're interested, then why not subscribe? The PCB I'm using is the AEK64 designed and sold by Hasu. I bought this one in 2015 and it's been sitting in a drawer for all that time. I've already tested that it works by plugging it in and putting tweezers between one of the diode pads and one of the switch pads. I'll need to solder on the diodes as well as the switches. The PCB came with through-hole diodes, but I wanted to use surface mount, so I bought some from winkeyless.kr. Whether you're using through-hole or surface mount, make sure that you put the diodes on the right way around or the switch won't work at all. Surface mount components can be tricky, but you can make things a lot easier by having good tools and good technique. I think I have the tools and I at least know what the right technique should be. I wasn't happy with how my soldering turned out this time, but I'll get plenty of chances to practice this year, I think. I added a bit of flux to the pads so that the solder flows well and goes where I want it to. Next, I'll put a bit of solder on the pads and then take a diode with some tweezers and move it onto the pad while I heat up the solder. If I position the diode well before I heat the solder, I can get it done without having to hold my iron on there long enough to damage anything. Finally, I add solder to the leg, which should now be positioned correctly over the other pad. I tried to do the one with the stripe first, as that's the one that needs to match up with the stripe on the diode. I thought if I did this for every diode, I'm less likely to put one on the wrong way round. Repeat 63 times. With all the diodes in place, I can do the tweezer test on both switch pads to make sure that they're doing their job. Now for the switches. I need to put them into the plate first and then place the PCB onto the legs. Some of the lower housings of my switches were damaged, so they were more wobbly than others. I tried to make sure all the legs are as straight as possible so everything goes in smoothly and lines up nicely. Once I have a few switches clipped in, I can solder them. They're quite snug in the plate, so I'm not too worried about misalignment. We're in the home stretch. One more round of testing to check if these old and rather well-travelled switches still work. I ended up having to take out one switch and replace that one after I kind of figured out that it was the switch plate that was the problem. And then I had another one, and I replaced the switch, and that one also didn't work. So I had two switch plates that were messed up, and then when I was taking one of the switch plates out, it snapped. So it turned into a whole epic tale of woe on my part. I had some other ALPS switches, some cream ones, and I just used the switch plate from that, so it was a pretty easy fix in the end. So after that, I realized that instead of trying to buy more keycaps from Yahoo Auctions, I should just use those from the Monarch. I'll be doing that in the third and final part of this series, as I spent so much time troubleshooting the problems with the switch plates and trying to find replacements. Then I had trouble with the stabilizers and I just had to call it a day. Part 3 will be out next week. I'll see you then.